Evangelist Jimmy Swaggart, one of the most iconic and controversial voices in American televangelism, has died at the age of 89. His passing sent shockwaves through the Christian world, with reports indicating that his wife, Frances Swaggart, broke down in tears and was unable to speak as the news settled in. While many mourn the loss of a spiritual giant, others are quietly asking difficult questions about his legacy, his scandals, and what truly happened during his final days. This is a story that goes far beyond the headlines, one that demands reflection, curiosity, and gravity. Jimmy Swaggart was a name that once echoed through television sets across America and around the world. Known for his fiery sermons, emotional altar calls, sweeping gospel music, and controversies that nearly destroyed his ministry, he was a man who built an empire, lost it publicly, and somehow rebuilt it again. Now that the final chapter of his life has closed, the questions surrounding who he truly was feel more urgent than ever. To understand his death, one must look not only at how he lived, but at how quietly his final days unfolded. In the months leading up to his passing, Swaggart's health had reportedly been in steady decline. Sources close to the ministry say he battled complications related to heart failure along with recurring infections that left him physically weakened throughout the past year. No official cause of death was immediately released, and the family remained notably silent during his final weeks. There were no social media updates, no public prayer requests, and no appearances from the pulpit. Supporters noticed the absence and speculated quietly, unsure whether he was simply resting or nearing the end. Behind closed doors at the family's Baton Rouge compound, the atmosphere was described as somber and emotional. Frances Swaggart, his wife of more than 70 years, reportedly remained by his bedside, praying, whispering hymns, and refusing to leave the room. One former ministry employee described it as the first time they had ever seen her truly broken. Despite his age and controversies, Jimmy Swaggart had never fully stepped away from leadership. Until recently, he remained involved in sermons and continued overseeing Sun Life Broadcasting Network, making his sudden silence all the more striking. As his condition worsened, quiet transitions began taking place within the ministry. Leadership responsibilities subtly shifted, and attention increasingly turned toward his son, Donnie Swaggart, whom many believed would eventually take over. Yet even Donnie remained silent during those final days. Then, on a Saturday evening just after 8:30 p.m., Jimmy Swaggart passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by immediate family. There was no dramatic announcement, no press conference, just words slowly spreading through ministry insiders and gospel circles. It was after the doors closed, witnesses say, that Frances collapsed, overwhelmed by the finality of the moment. Jimmy Swaggart's death marked more than the loss of a man. It marked the end of an era that shaped American evangelical television. To understand the weight of his passing, one must understand the empire he built. Beginning in the 1950s with nothing but conviction and faith, Swaggart preached in rural churches, slept in his car, and slowly gained momentum. By the 1970s, his television presence was growing rapidly, and by the 1980s, his ministry was generating more than $150 million annually. With Frances overseeing finances and Donnie working behind the scenes, Jimmy became the face, voice, and soul of the operation. His sermons were raw and emotional, often punctuated by tears and live gospel music. He built a multimedia empire that included Sun Life Broadcasting Network, the Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge, a Bible college, and one of the most expansive gospel music catalogs in the world. This was not just a ministry, it was a carefully constructed faith-based media machine. Even after the devastating 1988 scandal, Swaggart managed to rebuild. That year, he was caught with a prostitute, leading to a nationally televised confession that became one of the most infamous moments in religious broadcasting history. Just 3 years later, he was caught again, this time responding defiantly rather than tearfully. As a result, he was defrocked by the Assemblies of God and pushed out of denominational ministry. Yet he refused to disappear. He continued preaching independently, slowly regaining a loyal following. Over the years, whispers followed him. Former employees and insiders alleged financial improprieties, strict non-disclosure agreements, silenced staff, and tightly controlled messaging. While no criminal charges were ever filed, and the ministry denied wrongdoing. The cloud of suspicion never fully lifted. Questions lingered about what was known, what was hidden, and what stories never reached the public. In death, those questions have only grown louder. The ministry's response to his passing was controlled and minimal, focusing solely on his preaching, music, and devotion to Christ, while omitting any reference to controversy. Insiders say this is no accident. Frances Swaggart remains deeply involved in curating the narrative, overseeing tributes, and deciding who speaks on behalf of the ministry. Donnie, meanwhile, faces the challenge of stepping out of his father's shadow while preserving the brand that bears their name. Not everyone within the organization agrees with how this transition is being handled. Some staff feel the sanitized legacy ignores the full truth, while others question whether Donnie has the authority or charisma to lead. Quiet discussions about future leadership, family tensions, and financial control continue behind the scenes. Because the truth many hesitate to say aloud is this: Jimmy Swaggart was the ministry. He was its heart, its history, its controversy, and its draw. Now that he is gone, those left behind are scrambling to fill a vacuum that may never truly be filled.